Yeah, welcome everyone to our session today, the GPS to Agile BI on Decisive 2022. So my name is Severin. I work for IT-Logix in Switzerland for about 14 years as a consultant for data and analytics. Yeah, and I would like to give my colleague the opportunity to introduce himself.
Thank you, Severin. So my name is Raphael. I work for IT-Logix too, even since 20 years in a few months now. And I'm a principal consultant for data and analytics as well. And since more than 10 years now, working in the area of Agile BI coaching teams in this domain. So back to you, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe I just start because we have limited time and it's a live session.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, about questions, Raphael, I thought we discussed before, all the participants can use the chat to ask their questions and you will handle them in the end.
Exactly. So maybe to be more precise, there is even a dedicated Q&A window. So it's even better if you use the Q&A window, but you can as well use the chat. And we will try to spend some time today to answer your questions. But if we run out of time or just having too many questions, we will answer them afterwards by, for example, email.
Yeah, very good. So let's jump right in. I would like to start this session with an experience from my professional life. So the last 2 years have been rough for many companies and industries, and a lot of them are still going through hard times. So as a consultant, I myself was confronted at the beginning of these COVID times with a contractor near the railway industry. Oh, I have an issue with the window here. So, okay. Close to the business of a railway company. So this company lost over 50% of its revenue streams in less than 2 weeks. So this was enormous. And this was due to this hated lockdowns. And time there was literally money. So it was necessary to have a good overview about what is happening today and to have a plan of how the trends were going and to find the right countermeasures. And of course, some needed data was still provided from the legacy system. So this was not the hot topic, but other data sources were new and only used for scientific research. So they were not embedded in the infrastructure. And executives gave rough planning estimates about how things are going as Excel data, and they like to have had all combined into one system. So the management there was discussing about really uncomfortable decisions, hard decisions. They needed data to verify and back up their decisions. And so their reporting system has to be built and to provide all this data. I was consultant there. The time and pressure has been enormous. So the management or managers literally told us data delivered next week are just too late. It's just too late, worthless. And if we cannot deliver really fast, we can abort now. So we had to build this reporting system using technology that enabled rapid implementation of various data sources. And we could possibly do it with Tableau or Qlik or others. In our case, we used Power BI from Microsoft because it was the strategic focus of the company. So, but I won't go further into technical details. I would love it. I'm a technician. An engineer, but it's not the topic of today because we are telling you about the GPS to Agile BI. And what is important for me is all this was achieved through the principles of an Agile mindset and somehow almost unconsciously. So what really matters We achieved all this through a mindset of urgency, because the urgency was just there. It was this COVID times, and the teams were feeling some helplessness, or we all were feeling some helplessness, but at least we could help now to some extent, and so the team was naturally willing to help each other. So we had daily planning and reviewing sessions. We used pragmatic architecture, and we did automation whenever possible, even visualization. So we used some kind of visualization automation. Maybe Raphael will jump into it there afterwards. So when I look back, we followed instinctively the principles of Agile Manifesto. And I like to highlight some points of those Agile Manifesto points. So working software is the primary measure of progress. There was nothing else the management wanted to see. So it was just natural. They like to see working software. Business people and developers must work together throughout the project. So this was, even if it was a rough experience, it was also a good experience to feel the willingness to help each other. So to satisfy, okay, and then the next. So to satisfy the customers through continuous delivery of software, that was what we have done. We shared daily our progress by publishing our new development things to development and to dev, and then very soon, next day, to production. Sorry. Okay, and the best architecture required to design emerge from self-organizing teams. In those situations, we just had this self-organization teams. We were in a closed loop situation. We were directly discussing with stakeholders, developers, and managers. And I think we get the best solution within the least time. So, but I'd like to close here, having given you a first glimpse of agile development topics. So as an intro, and like to hand over to Raphael.
Thank you, Severin. So I really think that's a very impressive story you just shared with us. And I would like to continue here and give you a little bit more of a background. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. So I think, as you saw, you didn't use a dedicated agile process like Scrum. You didn't have a dedicated role like a product owner. It was just this kind of mindset which led you to the solution, or to the delivery, to the ultra rapid delivery of concrete results. Nevertheless, if we talk about agility, we can look at it in a more differentiated way, as of course, because fortunately we do not have all the time this kind of emergency or urgency as a situation. And what we see here on this chart is the question how, or we would like to answer the question how to increase agility. We often get this question. So Raphael, what do we need to do in order to increase agility? Where is the red push button to press that agility goes up? And my answer is, unfortunately, there is not such a red button you can push, but there are a few things you have to follow in order to make or to perceive your BI system in an agile way. So the first thing I would like to point out, it all starts with a professional work attitude, or professional workers as persons being in your team. If you introduce a process like Scrum, but you have people who do not understand how to build a BI solution, or what good BI standards are, for example, it's all worthless. So you really need to have well-trained people, knowledgeable people, and based on this knowledge and this professional attitude, you come to a next thing, which I typically call a professional laziness. And this professional laziness means that you don't want to reinvent the wheel again and again in every project, and even for various aspects or deliveries in the same project, that you develop the same thing again and again, maybe even in slightly different ways. And this is where the standardization comes into play. So standardization means that you try to stick to the same design patterns for the same problems or the same requirements. And there is a huge advantage if you start to standardize both your technology, your processes, even your organization could be standardized to a certain degree. Then you can start automating, because unfortunately there is no such thing like artificial intelligence, which just automates in a magic way your development. Typically, it's rather simple stuff about automation. It's all built on standardization, because wherever you have standards, you have as well repeatable work to do, following always the same procedure. And this is where the automation comes into play. Now, if you have automation in place, there is another aspect which you can achieve with that, namely short iterations. Now, Severin just told us about ultra short iterations on a daily basis even. But I think most of my customers would already be happy if they have iterations going down to 1 week or 2 weeks. If you remember back, a waterfall project maybe has one big iteration of 12 months. So if you would reduce that even just to 3 months iteration or then 1 month iteration, that would already be nice. And having these short iterations, like let's assume of 3 weeks, 4 weeks, this enables you to release new functionality into your production system on a more frequent basis. And if you can release new or changed functionality, let's say every month into the production system, this is what is perceived by your end users as agility, because the time from formulating a new requirement, then waiting until the next delivery, if that only takes 4 weeks, or even if it's just 6 weeks, this is what people perceive as agility. But it's nothing, agility as such is an abstract thing. You cannot increase agility as such, but you can increase the frequency of delivery. And for this, you need, as I told you just before, short iterations, automation, and automation is based on standardization. And to have good standards, you need good and well-trained people. Now, even though this might and hopefully makes sense to you as well, it's as a model, it's still too abstract. I imagine you cannot really tell me now, okay, what do I need to do to succeed with Agile BI? And as we got this question again and again, Severin and I started to write a book about Agile BI and how to succeed with Agile BI. And what I show you next is our GPS map, which addresses the various factors or aspects you need to consider or need to tackle in some way or another when looking at Agile BI. And it's a fictitious city, it's Agile BI City, and the various districts, we're going to look at it more closely right now. They show the different areas where you have to look at. And the idea of the map is as well, there is not a single straight way how to navigate through this city. Some organizations, they take route number 1, others, they start in a different district. So we need a certain flexibility because every organization is different. And this way, you will have to find your own way through Agile BI City in order to be successful. Now, let's dive in a few details here. So let me zoom in that you see this better. The first district where typically the journey starts is Inception Beach. Inception as a term means you need to learn how to ramp up your Agile BI project properly. Because, and I think that's really important, Agile BI doesn't mean you just jump into development. Agile is not having no plan. In contrary, it's important to have a plan, but the meaning of the plan is probably different than, for example, with a waterfall project. If we look here at the initial release plan stop, the initial release plan means that you have a rough idea on maybe the timing and when you want to deliver which increments, but you do not work afterwards to fulfill the plan, but you want to work to achieve certain goals. And if it's necessary, you will have to change the plan. Now, I mentioned the various or the project goals. That's the thing which you tackle here in the area of initial scope. So the initial scope means is that you think ahead a little bit and try to formulate what do you want to achieve with your Agile BI project. And agility here doesn't mean that you, again, just jump into development without knowing what you want to achieve. Of course not. So here it is important to formulate the scope, but again, you see this word initial. You just can formulate the goals from a perspective. Now we are at the beginning of an Agile BI project. So you have a certain knowledge currently, and this knowledge will change. So your knowledge about, for example, the requirements will change while developing these requirements. And perhaps you have to revise the scope because there are unexpected obstacles. Maybe there are changed priorities from your stakeholders, as Severin told us. And that's why the plan as well as the scope are only an initial scope at the beginning of the project, which might change throughout the project, at least for a little bit. Now, another important part, and now we are moving here into the next district, which is Vision Hills. If we talk about initial scope, for example, you need to think about what is the bigger picture our project fits in. What are the overall goals maybe of your BI organization, which you want to achieve, not just with this single project, but with many other endeavors in your organization. And that's why it's helpful to move up the hill here onto Vision Hills to look a little bit more into the distance on a wider horizon, both time-wise and as well perhaps in terms of technology, to think about what are my strategic goals and how are these BI goals connected maybe to strategic company goals, so that we can work or that we have certain boundaries which guide us in as well the Agile process, that we know, okay, these are predefined, for example, standards or definitions we shouldn't go around throughout the project. So having as well this long-term perspective helps to become, or knowing where do we have flexibility in the current project and where should we follow certain rail guards. Now, looking at this strategic perspective, this is very close to requirements engineering in general. And that's why we have the district of West Side requirements. So again, Agile BI doesn't mean that you don't need requirements engineering. You need to understand your requirements. You need to have the proficiency and certain methods to gather, to analyze requirements. And hopefully you do that in a BI specific way if you work in a BI context. Now, the difference from an Agile perspective is perhaps that you don't gather all the requirements in all the details just upfront before the project. But this is a continuous process. It already starts on the strategic level, but then of course it continues throughout the whole implementation project, where with every iteration you are working with, you will learn more about the requirements and you will be in a constant exchange between the developers and the stakeholders, similarly as Severin told you from his own experience. Now, given the area that we understand the requirements, we have properly set up our project for an Agile, let's say, project delivery, we can cross the bridge and look at some more technical aspects of Agile BI. If we go southwards here to downtown patterns, now you see we are entering the standardization zone. So the standardization zone means, for example, trivial or in reality not that trivial things like having a naming convention for all the various kind of objects, be it in the data backend or as well in the front end, how to name things. Because naming conventions are crucial element, or is a crucial element for automating later on your development process. But the same is true for architectural aspects. You should standardize the various elements in your architecture, for example, the number of layers you want to use, etc., and not just asking everybody or every developer to develop this from a new or from scratch for every, let's say, increment. The same is true for data modeling patterns or data integration patterns, and even information product related patterns, where it's coming to, okay, is every chart, is every table an individual artwork, or do you have a certain standardization how to design your reports and dashboards? Now let's assume we have a certain level of standardization, then we can move on to central technology here. Central technology is a lot about automation, as you can see here. So it starts, for example, if you really have a full stack architecture with a data warehouse in the back end and certain reporting functionality in the front end. Data warehouse automation is all about automating the data delivery from a source system into a data warehouse, into a data mart, for example, and then exposing that data to the front end layer. But be aware that if you automate the development process here, then you should as well automate the test process. It's very dangerous to have a powerful engine here, but no brakes and bad tires in your car. And the safety belt of your system here is test automation. So really have a look at that. And as we are here at Decisive 22, let me mention that Wiiisdom as well provide great tools to support you with test automation, for example. Now, once we have automated a lot of stuff in our process, then we can move on to uptown process and learn about the real, let's say, agile processes. And again, there is not a single option how an agile process looks like. There are various options like iteration-based delivery life cycles or processes, for example, Scrum, which really has this kind of sprints, or as we call it in a more neutral way, this kind of iterations where you work in a 1 or 2 week rhythm. But you have as well Kanban as a method, which is a more flow-based delivery life cycle. And if it comes to BI specific development, there is an approach, for example, the one-stop shop, where you do all the development from the back end. So extracting data, putting it into a data warehouse, into the front end, for example, all in one single iteration. Very challenging, but possible. But on the other hand, depending on as well the characteristic of your organization, you can work in a more assembly line kind of data warehouse and BI factory, for example. Now, it's great to have these processes. It's great to work on your requirements on a continuous basis, but then your purchase department come into play. And your purchase department perhaps has never heard of Agile. They want to sign you, especially if you're working with external service providers, as we are, they want to sign you a fixed price, fixed scope, fixed time delivery contract, something like this. That's why sometimes all that nice stuff we've just gone through is not compatible with your traditional contract or contracting. And that's why we should tackle the contracting topic together with the effort prediction challenge as well, in order to make Agile BI sustainable. Now, let me jump to the last element to as well conclude already our presentation. It's called deployment island. Until the, let's say, uptown process district, you will be able to deliver new functionality, little increments, but working software, working increments of your BI solution, let's say on a basis every 6, every 8 weeks, perhaps. Now, as we've heard by Severin before, 8 weeks would be far from fast enough for these specific situations, but they needed actually daily or probably weekly deliveries of new functionality. And this you can achieve through deployment automation. So that's as well kind of automation, but it's from the maturity level, it's even more advanced because you need to integrate now version control with the actual deployment itself, but you need to connect that with test automation in order to make sure that you automatically deploy things, but that the things are actually really working. And here, there are a lot of other stops once more, what you need to do. And again, Wiiisdom tools can be of great help. This idea of having as well analytics DevOps, so not only providing this functionality for backend functionality, but as well for your reports. I think that's a really great and valuable idea here. That said, I hope you got a good first glimpse at our Agile BI city map. And therefore, already let me conclude what can you take away from this presentation. First of all, even if it's not that an emergency all the time as told by Severin, Agile BI is a necessity in today's world. Agile BI works, and we can tell that really from long years of experience, but there are certain things you need to consider, like standardization and automation. Agile BI is as well learnable, and this map could be a first step for you to gain some orientation what you need to tackle. If you want to learn more about the map and all the different stops you'll find in Agile BI City, you can either wait until end of August, where our book should be published, and buy it, or for now, and even for free, you can become a beta reader, because at least the first 7 or 8 chapters are already available for beta reading. So feel free to register on the website of our publisher. That said, I think we still have 2 minutes left for a few questions. So let me change to the other panel quickly. Where do we have it? Do we have questions here? I don't think so in the Q&A form.
No, nobody wrote some question, but maybe you can just ask the question. We have 2 minutes left.
I think people are not allowed to speak as far as I know.
Okay, okay. Then write, but be quick.
Exactly.
Yeah, we could talk for hours, as you can imagine, but we have only 2 minutes left. And it was not, we didn't have to deliver Raphael in days. In the whole thing, it was it was more than half a year, but the pressure was felt this way.
Yeah, exactly.
To deliver in days.
Yeah, I'll do that, of course. Let me check if I can do that. Or just take a screenshot and the QR code, which will lead you to the lead as well. But I'll do that right afterwards. So give me a second later on to do so. Cool. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
It's always a bit special if you are talking to your screen and getting no visual feedback, but we hope you liked it and enjoy Decisive 22. Bye.
Bye.